Hi, this is Fall 2018 class of Data Visualization. Our project is United States Opioid Epidemic. Team members who participated in this project are myself, Frederick Chauhan, Li Fu, Rashmi Ray, and Renee. Opioid epidemic is the rapid increase in the use of prescription and non-prescription opioid drugs in the United States of America. Opioids are a diverse class of strong painkiller such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl, tramadol, methadone, and recreational drugs such as heroin. The availability of these substances, despite their high risk of addiction and overdose, has made them popular both as medical treatment and as a recreational drug. Due to their sedative effect on the part of the brain, high dose can cause respiratory failure, which leads to the sudden death. Based on CDC data we collected from 2010 to 2016, 328,000 more Americans died from drug overdose in 50 states. 196,000 Americans died from opioid-related overdose. Based on the data, 60% death contributed by opioid overdose alone. In 2016 only, opioids are responsible for 33% of overdose death, which is 42,249 out of 63,632 total overdose deaths. The rate of increase in opioid overdose death has been dramatic. There is a significant increase in death rate after 2012. Since 2010, cumulative opioid death rate has increased by 418%. In 2016, death rates has increased from 62% to 64%, which is a further increase of 3.15%, while from 2013 to 2014, sudden increase was from 56% to 62%. All these numbers are pretty visible in our time series charts. Oxycodone contributed 43% death by overdose since 2010. Fentanyl was responsible for 23% death caused by overdose since 2010. You can see the fentanyl graph is going up and higher from after 2013. In 2016, the top 15 states leading in opioid-related death are Ohio, New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, and California. These 4 or 5 states are right on the top of the chart. The national rate of opioid overdose death has increased significantly from 6% to 418% from 2010 to 2016. The sharp increase has seen in several states located in East, Midwest, and Appalachian region of the country, including Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia, and Florida. However, one state, California, shows stable rate in opioid-related death, which is pretty visible in bar chart down at the bottom. Hydrocodone is also rated high on the list of most abused drug in the East, Midwest, and Western state. Oxy or hydrocodone alone contributed 43% opioid overdose death in 2016. Hydrocodone deaths are high in California, Florida, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. The national rate of synthetic opioids, such as fentanyl, overdose death increased by 256% from 2013 to 2016. This rapid rise is reflected in Ohio, Florida, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Maryland. All those figures are represented in the maps on the left side. Is there any relationship between opioid-related death and overdose death? Well, we collected a lot more variables, and Renee will go in detail about correlation analysis. Lynn would be providing more demographies and the death rates, and Rashmi will be providing interactive analysis of the data. Thank you.
Okay, this presentation is part of the final project, the United States Opioid Epidemic Data and Visualizations. It will focus on the demographic visualization and analysis. Let's take a look at the first one, the overdose deaths by gender. This visualization analysis includes the United States citizens who died from a drug overdose between 2010 to 2016. Basically, overall, men are more likely than women to use the opioid drugs, and it's more likely to lead to overdose deaths. From the box plot, we can see the number and data distribution of the male and the female died from the overdose. It's important to note that the males disproportionately experience overdose deaths compared to female because males comprise about 49.2% of the United States population, yet account for the 64.8% of the overdose deaths. However, females only comprise 58% of the population and account for the 35% of the overdose deaths. The second one is the opioid overdose deaths by age. The figure shows that the total number of the overdose deaths by the different age groups from the 2010-2016. Most overdose deaths happened in people aged from 25 to 34, and this age group represents the largest percentage of the deaths, which is 24.3%. And the second percentage of deaths is in the 35 to 44 age group, which is 21.9%. Next one is overdose deaths by race. The figures shows that most of the deaths were identified as white, which is 84.6%. For black, it's 6.7%, and for Hispanic, it's 6.8% as well. This ratio for the overdose deaths also matches well with the racial demographics in the United States. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rashmi, and we have created some interactive visualization to study the trend of this epidemic across US state. The first one is the opioid death rate. I'm looking at the statistics for state of New Mexico, and I see that from 2011 to 2012 there is a bump, and something might have happened. And but if I see the trend nationally, it more or less stays the same. Next, if we look at the parameter of how the drugs are affecting, we see that they are going up. The one we cannot ignore is heroin and fentanyl tramadol. They are shooting up. Let's see this. Let's study it across states. South Dakota is giving a different story than what we see nationally. The major factor here is oxycodone, and we see the picture nationally. They're all going up, but the trend of heroin and fentanyl tramadol is noticeable here. Now, talking about the male and female, the story nationally and across the state says the same, as Lynn has said it earlier. Going to the age group, the dangerous equation is they are all going up. And we don't want to see this going up for age group of 0 to 24 and 55 plus, because that's where it comes dangerous. And all of them have some amount of contribution to them. We don't see a state which doesn't have that age group coming up. Fortunately, some of the states in a particular year we don't see data. Now, this is interesting to study the statistics across states and see how the story might be different than what we see nationally. Maybe this kind of analysis will be helpful in coming up with a right preventive measure to combat this epidemic. Now, Renee will take this story further for us. Thank you.
This is a scatter plot of opioid deaths and opioid prescriptions between 2013 and 2016. A calculated R-square of 0.73 indicates that 73% of the variance in opioid deaths can be explained by the variance in opioid prescriptions, which is a moderate relationship. This is the R-square value by state in descending order. As you can see, there is a large variance in the R-square value by state, ranging from 0.97 in Arizona and Indiana down to no correlation, 0, for the state of Utah. This is taken from the bar chart in the prior slide, but only highlighting the top 10 and the bottom 10 states in descending order of R-squared value to highlight and show a little bit more detail. In conclusion, opioids are a class of drugs that include the illegal drug heroin, synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, and pain relievers available legally by prescription from a doctor. Opioid overdose deaths increased sharply in 2013 and continue to grow. The U.S. opioid epidemic claimed over 42,000 lives in 2016 alone. Opioid abuse has become a significant public health risk. As of 2016, opioids account for nearly 2/3 of all overdose deaths. Fentanyl in particular has overtaken other prescription opioids as the leading cause of opioid overdose death. Fentanyl is a highly addictive pain medication commonly used to treat pain in cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy. It can cause respiratory distress and death when combined with other substances, especially alcohol. We've seen a large variation in state and regional opioid overdose data. And prescription opioids are correlated to opioid deaths, lending some evidence that doctors prescribing opioids may be contributing to opioid abuse. However, we must caution that correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, and more research is needed around the matter.